Welcome back. You're listening to Nate the Hate on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcast. As always, if you'd like to support the channel, we have a Streamlabs link where you can donate as little as $1, ask us a question, and we'll answer it at the end of the episode. If you donate $100 or more, we will dedicate the episode to you. And if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And joining me today, as always, is my co-host, MVG.
What's going on, Nate? Remember when things were quiet in the world of video games, where there was nothing going on and we weren't sure when the next episode would be? I think this is like the 4th episode in like 5 days or something. It's been crazy.
Yeah, we recorded that video about Nintendo where we were saying we want Microsoft and Sony to do something so we could talk about them. And since then, they've announced pricing, launch date, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Microsoft decides, hey, let's acquire a studio and let's make it Bethesda. I didn't expect that on a Monday morning.
I don't think any of us did.
No, we're still recovering from the weekend, and Microsoft is like, we're making moves, and you know what? We have pre-orders opening tomorrow, so what better way to get people excited about the Xbox Series X and Series S than announcing that we just acquired one of the biggest Western publishers in the video game industry? And that's exactly what they did for $7.5 billion. That's almost 3 times more than what Microsoft paid for the Minecraft IP in Mojang. It's astonishing.
Absolutely unbelievable. You want to walk us through the studios that they've picked up along the way? Because there's quite a few of them.
Yeah, there are quite a few. So for that $7.5 billion, Microsoft now owns Bethesda Softworks, Bethesda Game Studios, id Software, ZeniMax Online Studios, Arcane, Machine Games, Tango Gameworks, AlphaDog, and Roundhouse Studios. And these teams are responsible for franchises like The Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Wolfenstein, Doom, Dishonored, Prey, Quake, Starfield, and several others. That is quite the roster of game franchises.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. I mean, we were talking maybe about a month ago about Warner Brothers or AT&T looking to potentially, offload Warner Brothers, and I think there was some chatter going around that, different companies were thinking about acquiring Warner Brothers. There was some talk about Microsoft picking them up, but here they are. I mean, this was, Nate, I don't know, if you heard anything inside, but this one for me just came out of nowhere, and I think it's an unbelievable announcement, but I think it's a really exciting announcement as well, especially if you're Microsoft. They've obviously had their struggles, with studios. And even though back in the start of January of 2018, they were talking about, hey, we want to acquire studios and really strengthen, our company and our brand. This one is just, I mean, this is, I don't want to say this is a knockout blow to Sony, because you can't knock out Sony, but this is a fairly large, haymaker. They just swung and connected with Sony and said, hey, we're not to be messed around with. We now have the ability to really bring it to you. We're about to launch some new hardware tomorrow. We're going to open up pre-orders. We're going to have a $299 system. We're going to get people into the next generation and undercut you on price. And now we have an amazing lineup of games that we are responsible for. We own these games, and we have very many things going on in the works that are being developed that you guys don't even know about yet, but we're going to start unveiling next year at E3 and beyond. And look, the future is bright for Microsoft. They have responded extremely well with everything, and I'm impressed. I mean, I'm very happy to see this. As someone who loves video games, I mean, you always want to see this, and I think this is great. This will really make the next generation a very interesting thing, and I can't wait to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, this is a industry changing moment.
Oh yeah,
this is something that I don't think any other acquisition can really rival, unless we saw something like Microsoft buy Nintendo or Sony and Nintendo come to a agreement where they merge. It's that type of deal for this industry. This is mammoth. This is gargantuan. This is something like, I don't think Sony can actually counter this to a one-to-one comparison. There's no studio out there that Sony can go out and buy that would match what this impact would be. Bethesda has some of the most iconic franchises in video games. I mean, Doom and Quake revolutionized and created the first-person shooter.
Yep.
Elder Scrolls popularized Western RPGs. And now you have Bethesda under the same corporate umbrella as Obsidian, Ninja Theory, Microsoft's other studios like the Coalition, 343. All of a sudden, Microsoft's internal first-party studios, they are a formidable foe. They may still not be at the full level of a Sony or a Nintendo, but they are very close now.
Yes.
And like all that concern of what's Microsoft going to have for first-party output coming into this next gen, they're starting to extinguish a lot of those fears. They're showing we're going to go out there, we're going to make these acquisitions, we're going to make deals. And this was definitely a deal I didn't see coming. We had heard the rumors that they were looking at numerous studios. Phil Spencer even put out publicly he would like to get a Japanese studio. And in a way he did. Mm-hmm. He now has control of Tango, which is helmed by Shinji Mikami, famed creator of Resident Evil.
If I was Phil, I would be writing Shinji Mikami a check right now for $50 million and telling him, after you finish Ghostwhire Tokyo, make whatever game you want. I don't care what it is. Just use your vision and your amazing creativity and writing to just come up with the best Shinji Mikami game you've ever made.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that stand out about this deal that I love is that Microsoft is still saying to all of these development studios, you continue to do your thing. We're not here to say, hey, Bethesda Game Studios, we want you to create this weird new IP, or we want you to change the Elder Scrolls into this, weird, unexpected, transformative game. It's going to be continue to do what you guys do best. We're just here to help you publish it and to give it a house on consoles and PC platforms. Don't change the way you actually run or create. Continue to do what you do. And that's an awesome hands-off approach. That's exactly what Microsoft needs to do with these types of studios. Let them be them. You acquired them for a reason. You acquired them for their talent and their skill. Let them use those skills and deliver quality games. And you're just there to help them get to the finish line. And one of the big topics today is how is this going to impact the industry in the immediate? And for the immediate, I don't think this is actually going to have that big of an impact. And for the immediate, I'm talking about like the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Because we already know games like Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo are going to remain timed exclusive on the PlayStation 5. Microsoft already has come out and confirmed that. They're not messing with those deals made. And any games that have already been contractually obligated to PlayStation 5, Switch, or any other platform are still going to release. So Nintendo Switch owners, fear not, Doom Eternal is still going to come to Switch, hopefully in the near future. And, that's good news. It means...
And how sweet must that feel if you're Microsoft, that you've got 2 exclusive games coming to your competition? I mean, come on, that after a very, very rough year, it's a nice way to cap off, the acquisition and this year with the new systems. I mean, how do you think Jim Ryan feels about that right now? How do you think he feels? Jim Ryan had a bit of a rough week last week, saying things that were blatantly, I don't want to say lies, but they could have been said a lot better than what they were. And all of a sudden now his competition, 2 games are going to be running on his hardware.
If I'm him, I just say, hey, we got some great games coming from our third-party, partners. Just because you happen to be owned by Microsoft now, it's no big deal. I mean, we still have Minecraft on it, but
yeah,
we want to deliver the best games possible. And now with the circumstance, it just happens to be that these games are now being housed by Microsoft, our competitor. But the industry is changing, and this is going to have, deep impacts moving into the future. I mean, it's good that Microsoft is staying obligated to those contracts, and they're not going to try to weasel their way out to remove these times exclusive releases, or
Yep.
to like even remove a game from a platform that was already promised to get these games. So it's good that they're kind of looking at the bigger picture and they're saying this is what's best for the industry. This is what's best for players.
Yeah.
Is to bring these games to those platforms. They could be greedy and say, nope, you're not getting that anymore. We're keeping it exclusive to the Xbox Series X and PC. But no, they're doing the right thing. It could just be business. They'd have to pay out probably millions upon millions of dollars to get out of those contracts, and that's simply not worth it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I was mostly playing around. I was mostly trolling.
Right.
I mean, you're right. This is business, and Microsoft, obviously, they're no stranger to having their IP on other systems. Obviously, with with Minecraft and the Switch, Ori as well. But yeah, I mean, I just think it must be a good feeling that if you're Phil Spencer, that our initial batch of games will be running on PlayStation 5, and obviously anything beyond that will remain to be seen. But it's exciting times, if you're Phil Spencer from Microsoft and of any one of those studios, because I think whenever this kind of thing happens, when there's ever a merger or an acquisition like this, there's always a lot of uncertainty going on, especially if you're just someone that works at a studio. How you must be feeling about this. And I think in general, I mean, everyone, this is a personal thing. Like when something like this happens, a lot of people don't like change. They would rather just, go on the way things were. But some people, really want something like this to happen. And I think, there's no kind of general answer here, but I think overall, I would say this is pretty exciting. I think most employees at these companies would be feeling, there must be some excitement. There must be a little bit of hype around it. And I think they'd be very interested to see where this is going to go. I mean, if you were working at id as a developer or on the Doom Eternal team right now, you must be feeling pretty good about things. You would think that whatever budgets that were allocated for these games in general would be not only met, but probably increased as well. So if you're on the Doom Eternal team, I would say that there would be an immediate or close to immediate increase in whatever budget they were given. So yeah, man, I think this is all positive stuff. No question.
Yeah, I would definitely say this is mostly positive. And if I'm even the team on like an Elder Scrolls, we know that the Q&A process at Bethesda hasn't always been the best.
Yeah.
Games often ship with a lot of bugs. Maybe now with Microsoft resources, and there's no need for that, like that rush of, we need a big game this fiscal year. Elder Scrolls is supposed to be it. We need a 3-month delay, but we can't afford it. We have to get the game out. We'll patch it later. Now with Microsoft having such a robust first-party lineup, they might be able to look at that and say, we can afford a 3-month delay, optimize it, clean it up, and when we launch it, we want it, the best state we can have. We can patch it down the lines for the little things, but this could actually be a net positive for Bethesda games moving forward. I mean, I understand that's optimistic. People are going to say, what are you, crazy? It's Bethesda. Mm-hmm. Of course their games are going to ship broken, but let's hope for the best here.
Yeah.
Let's look at the future impacts. So as we know, in the immediate, nothing substantial is going to change. All the contracts are signed. The games have to release on the platforms they've been agreed to, be it timed exclusives and etc. What do you think the future impacts is going to look like when we have the new entries like Elder Scrolls come out, Starfield, and some of these unannounced games, be it like a new Doom, new Wolfenstein? Do you think those games are going to remain multi-platform, or do you think Microsoft is going to try to keep them exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem?
That's a great question, Nate. I don't know the answer, but I think in general terms, I would say anything that has a service association to a service would probably stay as a cross-platform game. So, for example, Elder Scrolls Online, for example, whatever gets updated there, or Starfield potentially would be a service-based game, or anything that's a service-based game. But I do think that Microsoft will, also, I'm not saying they'll do this in every scenario, and Phil Spencer made a tweet today that I know we're going to chat about, but he said that they'll look at this on a case-by-case basis. Look, I think that's a very honest answer. I mean, you can't just throw a label on all these games and say they're all Xbox exclusive, because that doesn't make any sense. So I would say, yeah, anything that has a live service component to it will probably stay multi-platform. Anything that doesn't is going to get thrown on Game Pass. And if you want the best games, if you want the best experience of Bethesda games, then you sign up for Game Pass, because that's where you'll get it. And you only need to pay whatever, is it $15 a month for the ultimate package? Yeah, I mean, I would say that's the way they're going to approach this. But I don't think they're going to, there's all this talk about, if you don't release this game for another platform, you're being anti-consumer or anything like that. I don't think that's what's going to happen here. But I do think that they'll keep a few exclusives up their sleeve, because I mean, Sony's been doing it for years, and now Microsoft has the ability to do something similar. So why not? It's just good business.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the idea of anything that is using a service will remain multi-platform, like the Elder Scrolls Online. You have a base on all these other devices. There's no reason to, limit that potential. You have income coming from them, so keep it going. When it comes to like the next Elder Scrolls game, or even Starfield, or even the next Doom, if I was Microsoft, I just spent a lot of money to acquire the studio. My interest would be, like, we can look at Skyrim. Skyrim's sold over 20 million copies. And I'd say, well, here's the next Elder Scrolls game. I want this on PlayStation 5. I want it on Xbox Series X. I want it on PC. I want it on every platform I can put it on.
Yeah.
Because I can sell dozens, I can sell 12, 15 million copies. I want high number of sales of my software.
Yeah, and you got to look at the marketing data, right? Like if Doom sold, 5-1 on PlayStation, then you wouldn't take that away. Why would you take that away? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever,
Right. You're gonna put it on the platforms that there's definitely an interest on, and Bethesda has sold well on PlayStation platforms. So any of these established IP, I would probably give, at least that next entry definitely to like the PlayStation 5 for the Elder Scrolls, Doom, etc. And, reap the rewards. Sell it at $70. Sell 10 million copies, bring in all that extra revenue, and then on the Xbox and Game Pass, you're going to have that game up there day one for subscribers to enjoy, and you're going to have that monthly subscription fee coming from those users who have invested, and you're going to get that money there.
Yeah.
There's no reason to limit your potential by not making these games multi-platform, because when I think of like the Elder Scrolls or even Doom or Wolfenstein or Quake, I don't necessarily think of them as hardware sellers.
Right.
I think of them as, strong software to complement a growing library of games. And for Microsoft, that's a good place to be, because Minecraft is on all platforms. It sells incredibly well. It's not necessarily an Xbox hardware seller. It's just, it sells tens of millions of copies on other devices, and Microsoft is bringing in all that money. So keep those games multi-platform. Now, down the line, I think Bethesda, or Microsoft in this case, is going to look at the new IPs that they have coming out that have yet to be announced. So new IPs beyond Starfield.
Yeah.
I could see them position those games as Xbox ecosystem exclusive.
Yep.
Because there's no obligation. You're not necessarily sure how the game is even going to be received. But there could be a case where, the genre, you say, this is a good fit for the Switch. This is a good fit for the PlayStation. We're going to put that game there, but maybe we're going to do it 6 months after we launch it on Game Pass and Xbox.
Right.
It's not a bad business model. You want to capitalize and make as much money as you can. And you have so many new studios now, and so many of these games are iconic. They're known, they're established. Sell them where you can, make the money, and do good by the industry. Keep the base satisfied and happy, and you might gain a little bit of goodwill where people are going to say, Microsoft is putting all these fabulous games on these other platforms. Maybe I'll buy an Xbox.
Yeah, no, dude, I totally agree. And the possibilities now get really interesting. And the one that I keep thinking about is Obsidian, right? So Obsidian is now reunited with Bethesda as a sister company, right? And Microsoft is obviously the parent company. So things have really kind of just gone around for them, in a complete 360. It's interesting. Now all of a sudden there's these possibilities about what we'll see beyond avowed and some of the games that we already know about, will there be a Fallout New Vegas 2? Because that's a game that we've wanted for a long time, and it's been something that was not possible literally until today. So, does Microsoft tell Obsidian New Vegas 2 is next and it's exclusive to Xbox? I mean, that would be a pretty big deal, but I do think, Nate, you're very much correct there in that you can't just, make everything exclusive. You have to really look at the marketing data and all the information before, you make decisions like that. And I think that's what Phil was really alluding to when he said, we're going to look at this one at a time or on a case-by-case basis. A lot of people were really concerned, that that Phil had said, and he didn't say this, but I think a lot of people were concerned that it was going to be, well, we're just going to close up shop and everything from now on is going to be exclusive to the Xbox. I don't think so. I mean, I truly believe that, you got to look at what they've already done with exclusive games and putting games on other systems. I mean,
yep.
Their track record of this is already very good. So, I don't think there's any cause for concern there.
Yeah, I think if I ended up seeing Microsoft start to limit the games and where they would appear, like if all of a sudden they were saying the next Doom is exclusive to Xbox, Elder Scrolls is exclusive to the next Xbox, then this deal would actually kind of transform into a bad thing for the industry, because now you have limited the reach of where these games could go. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem like that's really Microsoft's interest. And we can get into this topic now. Is, to me, this deal wasn't about Microsoft selling Xbox hardware to us. It was about Microsoft selling a service.
Absolutely.
And that service is Game Pass, where we can play it on PC, phones, and Xbox platforms. And Microsoft even said today, we want to get Game Pass on Apple. We will work with them about those restrictions and see what can happen. And they kind of have ambitions to bring it to maybe televisions. Yeah. They have had ambitions to say, we would love to have Game Pass on the Switch. There was even the talk that they had talked to Sony about bringing Game Pass to the PlayStation. Mm-hmm. So they want Game Pass on every device possible. And this acquisition today was another step in them selling their service of Game Pass and not selling Xbox hardware. Do you think that message is going to be a bit mixed among the gaming community, where they're going to say, well, if you're selling Game Pass, then why do you have the Xbox? Like, we've had that talk for months now where people can't seem to separate the two.
I mean, I think those questions will be ongoing. I don't know if that's really going to change the conversation there. I mean, there are arguments about that. Why is Microsoft bringing out new hardware when Game Pass, will run on all sorts of devices? But look, I mean, I think the Series S is the response to that, right? I mean, it's a cheaper device that will play all these games very, very well, albeit at a lower resolution. So, yeah, I think, they will. There's always going to be those questions that get asked about this, but Microsoft. I mean, you're right, Nate. They're trying to, get their name in everything. Like every single device they can get into, is what they ultimately want to do. And once they figure out how to get Game Pass integrated into like televisions and stuff, I mean, that would be kind of the next big thing for them if that's something they are considering doing as well. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Microsoft's too concerned, like you said, about one-to-one sales numbers with Sony. How many units of the Series S or the Series X they're going to sell as compared to Sony. That doesn't really matter to them anymore. And it's taken me a while to get behind that, because I never really understood that myself for a long time. Because I mean, this is video games. This is trench warfare. This is console wars 101, right? I mean, Sony doesn't have a response to that. None of their games are running on the Xbox or on Game Pass right now, right? So, that's a big deal, and I think that's ultimately what they're trying to do. And look, man, it's with this. I mean, you think about Game Pass now. You've got Bethesda, you've got EA. I mean, they're just the moves that they're making with Game Pass right now cannot be ignored. I mean, a lot of people, when you say Game Pass, people just, especially kind of the traditional console gamers, well, they think, well, what does that offer me? But I mean, it's offering you so much, right? And every single month there is like some new announcement that comes out about Game Pass, and it gets to a point where you just can't ignore it anymore. And for me, the best kind of Christmas deal right now, if you look at the PlayStation 5, the Xbox, the Series X and the Series S, the best deal would be a Series S plus a Game Pass subscription. I mean, you can't beat that, right? I mean, that is an absolute amazing Christmas deal and beyond. So
yeah, like as you have alluded to, Game Pass's value, it skyrocketed with this acquisition, because now you're getting all these Bethesda games, and Microsoft, if they're smart, and I'm sure they're already planning on this, is you're going to add a back catalog of Bethesda games to Game Pass in the very near future.
Yeah.
So just as like a hypothetical example, Xbox Series X launches. Well, here's Doom Eternal with a 4K 120 frames a second patch, only on Game Pass or only on Xbox Series X, for the first 3 months. It's like, okay, well, that's part of Game Pass. It's never going away. That's awesome. You can flesh out now that first year by going into some of the Bethesda legacy software and doing, a 4K patch of a game like Skyrim. You had some 4K HDR, or you somehow you go back further. There's really no limit to what they have access to now. They can put everything on Game Pass. They can do the Evil Within series.
Yep.
You can give those, can remaster those if you want. You can put those on Game Pass. Game Pass value is now at a point where you basically have to say, why don't I have Game Pass? Especially in the West. And by, like America and Europe, you now have a service that has all this Bethesda software. EA Access is now part of Game Pass for no extra fee. You have the Microsoft games. Wow. Mm-hmm. So I get sport games, Western RPGs, shooting games, action adventure games. That is a lot of software. It's a lot of quality software. It's not, like some people think Game Pass is like, oh, they just dump random indie games, or there's a lot of mediocre stuff.
Right.
Well, all of a sudden it just acquired, a dozen of the biggest developers in, the industry, and all those games can be added to Game Pass at any time. Never mind the future projects that they have in development right now. That is an amazing value for $15 a month. And as you said, if you buy a Series S and you're getting access to all of this software, there's enough games there that you could never need a new release.
Yep.
Especially if you've never played some of the software before. So like Game Pass now it's really a service that anyone interested in gaming has to be saying to themselves, I might do that $1 trial because I'm curious.
Yeah.
And that's what Microsoft has been positioning to this. And they said today they have 15 million Game Pass subscribers.
Which is unbelievable.
Yeah, that is a large figure, and it's only going to grow. It's going to expand as we get deeper into this generation, and that's the number Microsoft is going to be focused on. It's not going to be, hey, we sold 50 million Xbox Series X's and 40 million Xbox Series S's. It's going to be, we have 150 million Game Pass subscribers.
Yeah.
And that's exactly their focus, and that's where the focus should be. And Bethesda's acquisition definitely propels them to that figure, and even beyond that figure. This was a brilliant move from Microsoft to sell Game Pass, especially in the North American market, is because the only other companies in North America that really cater to the wide community would be Activision with Call of Duty and EA with Madden. And you have Madden with, EA game with EA Access. Call of Duty, Sony continues to make deals, but you still have the game on your platform. But now it comes down to that price. It's $70 for software.
Yep. On
PlayStation, including first-party software. Microsoft is saying now, we are offering you a lot of Game Pass software for just $15 a month. You don't have to buy the next Doom. You don't have to buy the next Elder Scrolls. You don't have to buy Starfield. all of those big, highly anticipated games from these, what used to be a third-party publisher, you don't have to buy for $70 anymore.
Yep.
We're giving it to you for $15 a month. How can you, as a consumer, say this is bad?
Yeah.
This is value in its purest form.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. It really is. I mean, they've come to this generation and next generation with just something that, is going to disrupt the video game industry. And again, I was not really a believer in it for a while, but in the last few months, I've really gotten on board. For me, it was when they put Flight Simulator on there, for free, right? Like,
yep.
That was the first time I thought, damn, this is a really good deal. Like, they're letting me play this game that is a $70 game. It's 150 gigabytes to download, and they're not even questioning it, right? It's like, wow, that is pretty damn impressive to do that. And man, I'm very excited about how this is going to go. I do have a question, and it goes a little back to Halo Infinite. So Halo Infinite, as we know, was delayed, and there was some rumblings. I mean, I don't know if this was ever confirmed, but there was some rumblings that Microsoft put a lot of resources from different teams on the Halo project to get something out for this year, and obviously that never happened. How do you think this will impact those types of crunch moments where it will normally they will try to pull resources from other studios? Do you think now with the acquisition of Bethesda that some of the Bethesda people will be moved on to Halo Infinite in a full-time capacity immediately, or do you think it's going to be more they've got a handle on that 343 has a handle on Halo Infinite, and the goal now is to get that ready for sometime next year, probably the holiday?
I'd imagine 343 probably has a handle on the situation right now. I could see them use some of these other studios, like assets creators, come in just to ease development in some areas, but it's not going to be any of the key components of the development team is being ripped off a big project like the Elder Scrolls to assist on Halo Infinite. It would just be, hey, we need maybe some an artist who's already done, or we just need some more of the lower level programmers to come in just for some quick assistance.
So you don't see
Todd that would impact them.
You don't see Todd Howard walking in, who's shipped many games, saying, "All right, I know how this works. Let's get this game done."
No, I wouldn't anticipate anything like that. It seems like Microsoft is still going to let all these studios operate on their own, and not really bother them with any of Microsoft's other problems with like the 343 Studios situation. And I mean, that's in their best interest.
Yep.
You can move the developers around if you absolutely need to, but if you have a well-oiled, functioning machine at, Machine Games, leave them alone. Keep them focused on the work they're doing. Don't mess with it. You don't mess with a formula that is already functioning, and that's kind of what I would anticipate there. But it does bring up an intriguing idea of, like you brought up Obsidian with Fallout New Vegas. A reason that we never saw that happen again is because Obsidian just simply never partnered with Bethesda to make a new one again.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of a situation of, even if they had the idea in the back of their minds, it's easier to approach now because it's as simple as, hey, Bethesda's busy working on, the brand new Elder Scrolls game. They're not working on a Fallout. Are you guys interested in doing it? Yes. Okay, let's go. You actually now have so much flexibility to look at the whole IP range that you've bought. And you could say, oh, Machine Games is working on a new IP. We want to make a new Wolfenstein. Well, you could look at 343, even though they are made for Halo, but you could actually look at them and say, you guys want to try a hand at, a Wolfenstein game?
Yeah.
You could do that. And I'm curious if Microsoft actually does some crossovers now.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, that's very, very possible. And there's also some lesser known franchises as well, like Commander Keen and things like that, right? So the possibilities here and the amount of fanboying that could be done is kind of a little crazy. I mean, imagine Doom Guy and Master Chief in a game together, right? I mean, there's all sorts of permutations here, Nate, and I think that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, a big thing to take away from this is that Bethesda did say they are still operating as their own publishing label. They're
Yeah.
not part of Xbox Game Studios.
Yes, and yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good thing to do, because a lot of people, just assume, well, now Microsoft owns them, then things will change. But yeah, I mean, very much what you said. It's going to be business as usual, at least for a while. Things may start to shift, like you said, after the first 12 months, when they've already fulfilled their existing commitments to their to publishers and to their partners and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, initially it's going to be pretty much the same as what we've seen.
Yeah, they're still going to be operating as Bethesda. They're publishing as Bethesda. There's no immediate concern. What we see in 2022, 2023, it will be a different story. That's probably where Microsoft will begin to leverage it. They want new IPs to be exclusives. If they want Doom to fall under the Xbox Game Studio label, they might do it then. But like right now, because you see a lot of PlayStation fans and even Nintendo fans worried that this means support is going to be cut into the future. But as we kind of already touched on earlier, if the franchise is established, it's likely going to remain a multi-platform game. And they still have a lot of legacy software that they can now say, well, we're going to bring it to the Xbox. We're going to, just do a simple HD release of whatever. And those would be good fits to bring to the other platforms, because they'd be, smaller, cheaper releases. And there's no reason not to bring them. But the more extravagant games, especially if they view it as a hardware seller, that will remain Xbox exclusive. But like the Elder Scrolls is going to cost probably over $100 million to develop, just as a figure. And my interest as Microsoft is going to be, I want to make as much money as I can. You're putting it on every platform that can handle it. If the Switch 2 is out by then and it can handle the game, we're porting it to the Switch 2.
Yeah.
We want sales, first and foremost.
Yeah.
And that's where, I mean, there's a lot of talk where people are saying this is good for the industry, this is bad for the industry. And I guess the bad for the industry is that this has removed a massive publishing house from the industry and put it under the umbrella of a, giant corporation. And it's bad in the sense that now it could potentially have a ripple effect where those games aren't being released on other platforms and outside of that Microsoft umbrella. But until I actually see that rock be thrown, I'm not concerned about that storm that could come. Yeah. I need to see Microsoft say everything's exclusive for us now. And they haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I think as long as Phil Spencer is in charge, I think things will pretty much stay as they are now. Beyond that, it's very hard to speculate.
Yeah, because it's business. It's business.
Yeah.
What's best for business? If it's best for business to be exclusive to the Xbox and make their brand that compelling, strong-looking brand, then that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But if it's their interest to make a lot of money and to sell Game Pass subscriptions, whether then different decisions will be made. But if it's just going to be, hey, this costs us a lot of money, release it everywhere we can, that's what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. Like, the Switch is in that weird position where we're transitioning into next gen. Games like Starfield are going to be very demanding, and the Switch is, beginning to show its dated technology. And even if a Switch Pro comes out, it doesn't necessarily negate those issues. So even if you see a little bit of limited support coming into, in 2021, it's not due to this acquisition. It's just that the games are becoming more demanding and the assets are no longer viable for the Switch platform. But, people are going to make that leap saying, oh, my God, it's because of Microsoft, that evil corporation.
Yeah.
Like, no, you have to look at everything going on. And, I mean, every time you see an acquisition, there's obviously there's a bad aspect to it.
Yep.
Because it does create, a monopoly of sorts.
Sure.
If you have Microsoft buying everybody.
Yeah. And something's going to get cut as well, right? I mean, not all these games are going to survive, unfortunately. That's just the way it is. I mean, something will get kind of axed. But hopefully whoever's working on those teams will just be shifted onto, other projects, right? So I think, mergers and acquisitions, I've been through them before. They're not fun because, if you're an employee of a company, your first response is, well, how does that affect me? But like I said, I think in general, it's a positive thing. But yeah, I mean, there's always going to be some fallout from something like this. And no pun intended, by the way, on the word fallout. Fallout is fine. Fallout's not going away. Don't worry. You know, that's definitely something that they will look to probably double down on, I would suggest.
Like, I could be completely wrong, and I could see, and maybe Microsoft does keep like the next Elder Scrolls exclusive to the Xbox. I would just find it surprising.
Me too.
If
Yeah.
they'd go that route, because I think it would just benefit them more to keep it multi-platform, especially if you want to sell,
Yep.
the Game Pass service, and you're going to make the money by releasing on the other platform anyway. So it's it's a win-win for you as a business. But I guess you could say, well, I'm losing by not keeping it exclusive. But if I'm Microsoft right now, I've built up a lot of goodwill. I've made people happy. Like, look at our backwards compatibility.
Yes.
Game Pass has been a great value.
Yep.
Let's keep the games going multi-platform if we can, and keep the industry healthy. And like, I would definitely be one to say, well, this is a really bad move if we did see that whole shift happen where Microsoft took everything exclusive from all of these studios, because that's a big piece of pie missing now for the industry.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard for me to imagine that, but let's assume that they did. That would not be a good move for them. I mean, they've slowly over the last few years chipped away at trying to get at some level of the market back, from Sony and Nintendo. And this year, like when we saw both showcases from Sony and Nintendo, Microsoft from Microsoft from Microsoft and Sony, Microsoft showcase was, we kind of felt that it was okay, but it was just missing. They were a few steps behind Sony. They just couldn't compete with them, And now that they have this, they're right there with them. They're right there with Sony. They have the muscle now. They have the studios behind them to say, whatever you guys have, we have as well. And, we can match you no matter what you guys throw at us. And we have Game Pass. So it would be a bad move, I think, if Microsoft turned around now and said, we're going to put exclusives on all our future releases beyond, the commitments that we've already, made to our customers and our third parties. That would be very, very strange for me to see that. But if whoever replaces Phil Spencer, and hopefully Phil will stick around, hopefully he's not going to go away, but whoever replaces him, I mean, they may have their own opinions on how that will go. But I think in the short term, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, in the short term, I think we'll be okay. Long term, it remains to be seen. It's a really complex situation, because it really comes down to, people say, oh, well, we're talking about lost sales potential if they keep it exclusive. But at the same time, it means the game would still be available on Xbox, Game Pass, xCloud, PC. It is a lot of platforms. There is a lot of choice there. But this is such a large umbrella of studios, and you're removing so much industry competition from a third-party standpoint with the acquisition here. I just view it, if I'm Microsoft, I don't need to, I want you to invest in my ecosystem.
Yeah.
I want you to definitely, get Game Pass. I want you to play it on PC or a phone, xCloud, wherever. But I still think it has a little bit of a benefit to have it on other platforms. And, Microsoft might make me a liar, and they might make it exclusive. And, I'd be sitting there kind of saying,
yeah,
I'm not going to say I would be mad about it. I understand business.
Right.
It would just kind of feel like, it kind of sucks to see that happen, because it'd be like someone coming in and buying EA, and then you have no sports games on any other platform except for whichever company buys EA. You'd kind of sit there and say, well, that sucks.
But if
hurts the industry.
If you have Doom, like let's say it's working on the next Doom game. Let's say it's Doom Eternal 2, right? And it's supposed to come out in 2 years. If you have Doom as your major, draw card, there's probably some, there's some desire to keep that exclusive on the Xbox, at least in a time capacity. Why wouldn't you do that if you have that up your sleeve?
Yeah, if we're looking into the future, like 2022, 2023, and I have that big game like Doom, or a sequel to something, and I can say, we'll bring it multi-platform, but I want 6 months of exclusivity on Game Pass for our platform first. I can see that from a business standpoint where it makes sense. The consumers still have the option of choice. They can still get it on the other platform, be it a Switch 2 or a PlayStation 5. Down the line, it's not forcing me to have to go this. Like, we've never really have seen a company of this size get bought in the industry. This is where this is unprecedented.
Absolutely.
We've never, we've seen Rare get bought, and it was like, oh, Rare, they made a lot of good games for Nintendo.
It was also a very different time back then.
Yes.
Because it was like the before the 360 days, right? I mean, it was the OG Xbox days, so things were a lot different. There was certainly no live service, service delivery that you could tap into and just play games whenever you wanted to,
Yeah, and we've never seen an actual publishing house get purchased by a console manufacturer. We've never seen something like this. And that's where there's a lot of uncertainty. I'm being a little more optimistic in saying I think Microsoft is going to do right by the industry and cater to, kind of everybody. There will be the case-by-case situation where they are going to examine the games, and it will, say this is a good fit for multi-platform. This is a good fit for multi-platform. This is a brand new IP that's unproven. Let's keep it exclusive, because if it does become a big deal, we have it.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
this will not be arrogant Microsoft. This will be humble Microsoft, I think.
I think so too. Yeah. And I hope they don't prove us liars here, because I want to see the end. I want to see the industry thrive.
Yes.
And the industry can't thrive if you have companies like Microsoft, Nintendo, or Sony buying up huge publishing houses. Like, let's say Sony comes out of nowhere and buys Ubisoft, and they keep all of those IP that Ubisoft develops exclusive to the PlayStation. That would be devastating to the industry.
Absolutely.
Like, even if you're not a fan of the Rabbids games or Assassin's Creed, you're still missing out on so much, like Splinter Cell, Just Dance. If all those all suddenly were exclusive to a single platform, it's bad.
Yeah.
And you don't want that for the industry. And I hope that is really Microsoft's goal here, is to let the industry thrive, make these games multi-platform, and keep the industry healthy moving forward. And that would keep everybody happy. You guys want to keep exclusives here and there? That's your business right to do it. You own the studios.
So let me run a question past you, Nate. So do you think this has exposed Sony in some capacity? And what I mean by that is, let me throw this scenario to you. So Microsoft has Game Pass. They have the Series X and the Series X, which are going on pre-sale tomorrow. It'll be today by the time the listeners listen to this show. And they have the option of Game Pass, where they can pretty much pick whatever game they want, install it onto their system, play it, finish it, get rid of it, and then grab something else, play it, finish it. So that whole concept of, I don't really, the storage requirements or the storage limitations of next gen on the Xbox probably aren't as, I'll say, restrictive as Sony, because especially if you have the physical system, there's going to be a lot more emphasis on potentially purchasing additional storage. Now, look, if you own the game digitally, you can delete it and reinstall it anytime you want. So I guess it's not that much different. But without Game Pass, do you think that Sony has now been exposed to a weakness that they have going into next generation? Do you think their model of video games and the way they've done things, which has always been make really cool hardware and make really cool games and then just sell them, do you think that will continue to be able, do you think that's sustainable going into the future? Or do you think Sony will eventually, I'm not saying right now, eventually be forced to come up with something that does compete with Game Pass? Because honestly, they don't have anything right now. And I think that's where, if they do stumble, that's where it's going to be for them.
Sony does need to come up with a service that can compete with Game Pass, because as much as it pains me to say, and for some to hear, Game Pass and services are the future of the industry, and Microsoft is simply way ahead of the game when it comes to that. They are looking to the future. They understand this. They understand that they can position Game Pass as the Netflix of gaming, and the purchase of Bethesda proves that fact. They are looking just to offer so much strong software and probably had such a consistent flow of it. And they're still making deals with third parties like Sega to bring Yakuza and deals with Square to bring Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest to the service, where they're just showing this vast reach of software. And I think what the acquisition today kind of exposed for Sony is the PlayStation 5 really isn't offering me any value.
Mm-hmm.
I'm buying a $500 piece of hardware where software from first parties is going to range from $50 to $70 depending on the game. And third-party games look to be priced $70, similar to what Microsoft will have from third-party games on the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. But Game Pass exists. So I'm not buying those first-party releases. Sony is saying, you're giving us $70. And it comes down to buying habits. Microsoft is changing the way I perceive games. Mm-hmm. It's changing the way I approach buying a video game. And now that I know I don't have to buy Halo, Gears, Elder Scrolls, Starfield, anything from Bethesda, I don't have to, or I can try all those games from EA Access. They've taken away the idea of buying games in my mind.
Yeah.
Because they're offering a service of such value where I can wait for them to add the game to that service, or they're putting it right there day one at launch anyways. And Sony is saying, invest in us, give us money. But where's the value?
Yeah.
You're not offering anything to counter what Microsoft is doing. Microsoft seems to be in that better position for anyone who wants to kind of be the informed consumer.
Yep, and Sony's out here pricing games at $70 each for next gen.
And their reasoning is, we release premium games.
Yep.
So you're going to pay a premium for it. And Microsoft is just sitting there saying, $15 a month, you can play all of this. You can play legacy software from Bethesda. You can play Doom, Elder Scrolls, Wolfenstein, etc. And it's like, wow, look at that. You're a library of software where I can just come in, pick a game out, play it to my heart's content, go back and pick another one. And Sony's saying, you can't rent a game, and I'm saying that with quotations in my fingers.
Right.
You can't rent the game from a service. You have to come in and buy the entire book.
Yep.
And I think they do have to address that in the future. They have to make PlayStation Now a more competitive service to Game Pass. They have to start offering first-party software. I mean, it's obviously they have to find a business model that is profitable for them. Microsoft is a huge company. They're willing to take a loss on Game Pass to build it up. I don't know if Sony's really in that position that they can afford to do so. But Microsoft is changing the industry, and the impacts, are yet to be seen. It's still a gamble. Game Pass is still a gamble. We don't know if it's going to pay off for them. If it does, and I've said this time and time again, they're going to look like geniuses. They will have revolutionized the industry. And I think the acquisition of Bethesda is quickly making people realize the vision that Microsoft has. And it's just a matter of, are you willing to embrace this future, or are you still going to resist and say, no, this isn't where I want gaming to go, but this is where it's flowing. It's flowing towards services. And the sooner you kind of embrace that reality, the sooner you're going to accept that this is just the direction the industry is going in, and you're going to be a part of it, or you're just going to say, gaming is no longer a place for me.
Yep. No, I love it. I love it. I love the fact that this is happening. I like I said, I'm all about Game Pass. I love the fact that Xbox is pretty much just putting their name out there on all sorts of different devices. If you're a old school gamer like me, you can still go out and buy a Series X, pre-order it tomorrow, and still get physical games and install them on your machine and play them. But they give you so many different choices, and now with this, it's very, very exciting. I just can't wait to see how this goes. I think right now it's not really going to change much, but slowly over time we'll definitely start to see the influence that Microsoft has on Bethesda, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying in a good way. We'll start to see some cool things. One rumor that I heard today, and there was a lot of things going on social media, so I don't know if this is true, but I did hear today that this was supposed to be an E3 announcement. Does that make sense to you? That seems very, very early.
Yeah, that seems early for that type of announcement because why would you even hold it till now unless you really want to time this to pre-orders, which
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to drive a significant amount of pre-orders for the Xbox Series line of product. You could have announced this back in June and it still would have been like a whoa moment, and you actually would have given people a lot of time to like stew on it, and then you could have had
Yeah.
some sort of like montage in your like an August or a July event where you could have been like, oh look, all this stuff from Bethesda's Legacy is coming to Game Pass early 2021 to get people to be like, oh yeah, that's really cool. Now I'm excited and I have to put in that pre-order once they're open. I'm not saying it couldn't have been an E3 announcement, but the timing to me just doesn't add up when all things are factored in.
You don't think it was a flex? I mean, last week Sony showed us this the PS5, gave us the price, and then showed God of War, and then opened up pre-orders immediately. The hype levels were insane. You don't think this is a response? They show us not just a game, they purchase an entire publisher and acquired all the studios underneath it, and then tomorrow the Series X goes on pre-sale. I mean, that's a pretty good response to Sony's move last week.
It is a good response, but I think if I were them, I would have gone a step further and I would have had some sort of game that is coming to Xbox Series X on like launch day on Game Pass that's getting enhanced on Xbox Series X, like the Doom Eternal or Skyrim or something to that. And that would have generated that a lot more hype of like, whoa, they're serious about this. The announcement itself, outside of like people who are really invested in the industry and keep up with the news, this was just, oh wow, Microsoft just really strengthened their stable of developers and potential software moving forward. But I have to see the fruits of, I have to see this tree bear fruit.
Yep.
And we haven't seen that yet. Like, even as we have discussed, we don't know if they're going to make some of these games exclusive. We don't know if they're going to remain multi-platform. We don't know how they're really going to approach this beyond that. All these Bethesda games in the future are going to be on Game Pass day one. So if it was to be a full-on counter to Sony last week, I think they would have had a trailer with some sort of game getting enhanced or something.
Yeah. Maybe, a clip of Todd Howard walking into Phil Spencer's office or something.
Just something a little goofy, a little friendly. And then like, oh, wow, didn't expect that. But so, it's just still a big topic.
So one more question from me. If you're Sony, would you be worried right now?
I think in the back of my mind, if I'm Sony, I'm kind of sitting there saying, what were Microsoft's intentions and ambitions with this acquisition? If it was to secure themselves exclusive software moving forward with those, iconic IP like Elder Scrolls and Doom, I'm kind of sitting there saying, okay, they're playing for real. They're serious about this. If they're still going to bring those games multi-platform, I'm just kind of like, okay, it's no big deal. But Microsoft is definitely going to sell that Game Pass service in a very aggressive manner. And, we can't beat that. All we can do is do what we do best. We're going to make the games we make. We're going to hype up games like God of War 2. And we're going to continue to market our software the best we can and excite the base and try to prove to everybody you're buying a premium product at a premium price because we give you the best games that, the industry can offer. And that's why you're willing to give us $500 for the system, $70 for a controller, and $70 for a game because we're Sony and you love what we do, and Microsoft is just in a completely different game right now.
Yep.
They're playing a different game of chess. They're looking to the future way beyond the present. Sony is still kind of in the present. They're just buy the PS5 because we're Sony. Microsoft saying buy Game Pass, Xbox, PC, I don't care. We're going to get you.
Yep.
One way or the other, we're going to get you under our umbrella.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Sony will they'll be looking at this and maybe be a little bit bemused by it. I don't think there's any cause for concern. There's certainly no panic in the Sony camp. I mean, they've done things for years and it's worked for them. They have an absolute loyal fan base, and we know that they can shift hundreds of millions of systems and hundreds of millions of games. There's no cause for concern. But I do wonder, is that's going to be sustainable going into this generation, you know, with the rising costs of video games, the rising development times to get games done. I mean, we saw lots of cancellations this year. Sorry, lots of delays this year, not cancellations. And of course, you know, it was a very tough year for many folks. And the longer development times, you know, is that model going to continue to work for and be successful for Sony going forward? I think that's an interesting question.
It's going to be interesting to see because, I mean, we are still in the midst of the pandemic. There are still those who are being hurt, and, you know, economically. And Microsoft is just offering so much value that they are kind of positioned in that way of, we're going to give you a ton of software day one, and it's for a bargain of a price. And Sony's saying, we're a new generation. We're giving you something that's visually amazing, and we're charging you more money for it. I mean, is it a long term? I mean, long term, maybe the $70 price isn't going to be all that significant on the consumer. It's just going to be something that they accept. Maybe they don't accept.
Yeah.
But Microsoft, just from a value perspective, in the here and now, it's just too much to ignore. They're in a really good position from a value standpoint, and Game Pass continues to get better every single day. Now we can move to some Streamlabs questions. We had a $3 donation from Skit Tittles, who said, "Hi again. About a year ago, the Xbox backwards compatibility team quit making more games backwards compatible to ensure every Xbox One game can run, the Xbox Series could run too. Now that that's wrapping up, what do you think is next for that very talented team of individuals?"
I think it'll continue on as it left off. You know, I think, you know, they paused for a little while to make sure that everything was running correctly on the next generation. But I would expect to see more backward compatibility being added to the service over time. So expect more OG Xbox and expect more 360, and anything that was Xbox One that for whatever reason, you know, isn't running or maybe was going to get held back. But I mean, I think we heard that everything was going to run on day one. So I don't even know if there's any work that needs to be done there. But yeah, I mean, I think that team will continue to, you know, improve that technology and make it work with pretty much everything. And I think that will just continue.
Yeah, I can see them adding like HDR and those enhanced. They said they want to improve some of the frame rates of games that used to be 60 frames a second on the original hardware, maybe make it 120 frames a second. And I think that's probably going to be their focus moving forward. And we had a $1 donation from Matthias, who says, "When can we get a Nate the Hate face reveal?" When someone donates $10,000. Then we had Andrew AU donate $3, who said, "Love the content. For saving as much hard drive space as possible, is it worth getting the disc-based PlayStation 5? I'd rather the all-digital, but I'm worried about losing extra space versus disc. How much would I really save using disc? After DL patches, etc., if any, you actually wouldn't be saving anything because the full game is going to be installed on your hard drive anyways. So the only convenience is really going to be whether or not a disc installation is quicker than your download speed of the game."
Yes.
Then we had James Gold, who donated $3, right? "Love the podcast. Keep up the great work and entertainment. Just speculating. I think it's likely Bethesda and id Software will be timed exclusives unless Microsoft Game Pass base grows significantly, maybe a year. Thoughts?" I'd say we probably answered that in the entirety of the show, but yeah, it seems like Bethesda, id, and Microsoft, I think they will keep established software multi-platform for at least the next couple of years. Beyond that, we could see them then begin to shift under the Xbox Game Studio umbrella, but I wouldn't be too concerned about it in the immediate future.
Yep, agree.
And that does it for the Streamlab questions. As always, if you want to support the channel, you can donate as little as $1. Ask us a question. We'll answer at the end of the episode. Donate $100 or more, and we will dedicate the episode to you. And I'd like to thank MVG for joining me as always.
Thanks for having me on, Nate. This was fun, and let's see what Bethesda gives us over the next 12 to 18 months. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how Microsoft handles Bethesda in the coming years. And you can find a link to MVG's channel in the description below. If you like the content, give the video a like. Be sure to subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda in the comments section below. And as always, continue to embrace the hate.